welcome to all of our financial manager applicants. You may all leave apart from Caitlin, and then I will ask her standardized question. So we'll just wait for Sarah and Jessie. Hello, Knowledge. We're just waiting for the candidates to leave apart from Caitlin because we're going to ask one standardized question before the next person joins. Okay. You can put on your camera. I'm just going to put you on spotlight. Okay, very welcome. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Caucus. So our standardized question that we have for you is, let me just put it up here. As a financial manager, how will you ensure that your team keeps to deadlines, and what will be the process if they do not?
Deadlines and the process if they do not?
Yes.
Well, for one, I say keeping on top of people by constantly reminding them and enforcing them. I mean, everybody has so much on their plate, and especially as an HC, you're flooded with so many messages and so many things. So as a financial manager, I really think it would be my responsibility to keep on reminding them and keeping on top of them. Yo, you need to please fill this in, please get this done, please stick to what was discussed. And if they don't, let's say, stick to the deadlines and everything, I would always make sure my deadline is before the financial requirement deadline. So let's say a day or two prior, which gives me at least a bracket in which I can encourage them to get it to me as soon as possible. I think you're muted, Carly.
Thank you very much. I am going to let let Jessie join, and then I'm going to ask her standardized question as well. So we'll just communicate with her that she can join. I'm going to ask all of the standardized questions, and then we'll come back to you, and I'll open the panel up so that you can answer your panel questions.
100%. See you just now.
Welcome, Jessie. It is so nice to have you on your caucus. I'm going to ask you your standardized question, and then we will let the next candidate on. And once all of the standardized questions are asked, you'll each get your minutes to get asked your caucus questions from the panel. Okay, so your standardized question is, as a financial manager, how will you ensure your team keeps to deadlines, and what will be the process if they do not?
Okay. I'm very organized, and I do something I do explain in one of the. I like to make a deadline before the actual last interview so that there is extra time just in case something isn't done on time. And I'm not entirely sure what the process would be if something isn't done when it's supposed to be done, because I don't know if there's something that the hawker does. Sorry, the HC does specifically for that, but I wouldn't be too upset with people. I would show that I'm disappointed and tell them, but I would help, and we would carry on working on it together to finish it as quickly as we possibly can.
I'm muted. Thank you very much for your answer. You can stay on the call. We're just going to get the next candidate, Sarah, in for her question.
Yeah.
You can put your mic and your camera off.
Okay.
And it looks like Sarah is with us. Hello, Sarah. You can put your mic on for us. I'm going to ask you your standardized question, and then we will let the next candidate answer theirs, and then we will go back from the beginning and let you have your panel questions. So your question is, as a financial manager, how will you make sure that your team keeps to deadlines, and what will be the process if they do not?
Okay, so first of all, from my experience, I have found that it works well to kind of first give a broad overview of what exactly is going to need funding and what isn't going to need funding. So as soon as all the portfolios have been allocated, we can have that little discussion and make sure what exactly the ideas are for the specific portfolios. Then I'd ask them to take time, whether it is a few days or a week or so, to think about what kind of activities and events they would like to have for their specific portfolios, and then estimate a sort of a budget for what they want. And we usually start planning events very, very early in the year. So then we'll be able to realize by when we'll need the funding for the certain events. So then, dependent on when those dates are, I'll set a time frame long before that they need to firstly give me their budget so that we can work out how much we are able to spend on their specific portfolio. And secondly, a deadline by which they need to send me all their quotes so that I can start making the payments and make sure that it is handled long enough before the event actually takes place. And then in general, just keeping people accountable by checking in, sending a message saying, remember that your budget is due in a week. Something small like that is just a simple way of reminding people. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. We will just let Sia answer her last question. You can stay on the call, and then we can go from there. Do we have Sia with us? We'll just wait for Sia to come on. I will be explaining quickly just, Caitlin, what you're going to do next while we wait for Sia. Your caucus will then officially start with all of your questions. So we'll be timing you, giving you your 8 minutes, and then we'll be asking you questions from the panel, and the same will be happening for the rest of candidates as well. It looks like Sia is with us. Hello, Sia Sanga, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, that's great. Do you mind putting your camera on for us just so that people can see your face? Hello. I'm just going to spotlight you so everyone can see you. I'm going to ask you your standardized question, and then once you're done, we will be moving over to Caitlin's full caucus, and we'll be running the caucuses from there. So your standardized question is, as a financial manager, how will you ensure that your team keeps to deadlines, and what will be your process if they do not?
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes. So as a financial manager, how will you ensure that your team keeps to deadlines, financial deadlines, and what will you do if they do not?
Okay, so as a person who has once worked in a field which is based on finances and everything like that, I would work through that using charts, right? So my chart will have allocations of assignments or tasks that we have and when it should be achieved and when it should not be achieved. So maybe it will be a weekly schedule. So I'll give that to my team members that in this week we have to achieve this much amount of work. And then if they do not meet up to that standard, and then what I could do, I could talk to the person or to the group of people who does not does not meet the requirements or achievements or do any type of job, and I would communicate with them, because as a financial manager you don't only have to know how to deal with accounts, but you also have to know how to communicate with people. So communication is very important in a finance field. So if people do not meet the requirements of their assignments, which would be written down on charts, and then I will communicate with them.
I'm muted. Thank you so much. We will be going along with our caucuses as normal now, so all of the candidates can stay on the call. And Caitlin, your panel discussion is first, so we will be asking you questions first. You can put your camera on, and Sia, you can just put all of your things off. And then I will start your timer, Caitlin. And does anyone in the panel have a question for Caitlin? Otherwise, I will start us off. Okay, I will go first. So, my question for Caitlin is, you mentioned in your speech that a financial manager is going to be very involved in all of the portfolios of the HC and the deadlines and everything. How do you think you're going to be handling being confronted with all of these different deadlines and keeping up with all of the different events and everything that has to happen, since you're very involved in all of it?
So as a financial manager, having, like you just said, kind of bits and bobs in every single aspect of our SDR, it's really important to, okay, wait, can you just rephrase the question just to make sure I answer it correctly?
Yes, definitely. So you mentioned in your speech that you're, as a financial manager, you're going to be very involved in all different portfolios. So that means you're going to be having to keeping track of all these different deadlines and events happening. Mm-hmm. How are you going to ensure that you keep track of all of these deadlines and make sure you don't miss something from your side?
100%. Definitely by keeping a schedule, a very strict and tight schedule with a list of everything that needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how it needs to be done. As I mentioned in my speech, I aim to incorporate a really inclusive and getting other people involved who want to help, who feel they want to be part of something. So I definitely feel I'll make use of that. I mean, as being in a community, it's not just me. Even though I would be the head of the portfolio, doesn't mean I can't utilize the rest of my fellow RSDians to, assist and help in tasks which I can't necessarily, be at all the time. So between keeping a proper list, spreadsheet, and schedule of what needs to be done, and by utilizing anybody and anyone who's willing, I'm pretty sure that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Does anyone from the panel have a question for Caitlin?
Hey, Kate.
Hello, Joss.
So my question for you is, just looking at your speech, you spoke a lot about wanting to bring a sense of belonging and trust in the community of Aristia. And I just want to know, can you elaborate on how you could do this through your financial manager portfolio, or was this more to do with general HC?
Well, this is definitely more to do with financial management portfolio. I mean, as Carly just mentioned, you will be part of so many aspects in which you'll be having to keep track of, having to influence, having to make sure people are part of it. And as I remember in my term as mentor, you had this portfolio in which you needed us to help to come and assist you. And that gave me a really big sense of belonging and, a contribution factor. And by doing exactly that, just how you utilized us, how I can utilize the rest of the first year's committee, the second year's committee, in portfolios which I feel they would really help and would really, be a prosperity factor. Does that answer the question?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the panel have a question for Caitlin? Anyone? There was such a long pause last time as well. I'm never sure whether it's a pause or someone struggling to get their mic on. Okay, I have a question for you, Caitlin. What do you think is the main reason that you stood for financial manager out of all the positions that you could have stood for?
So initially, I wasn't going to stand for financial manager, but after hearing our past financial manager speak about how much influence she actually has over all the portfolios in Aristia, it really spoke to my sense of wanting to contribute something and wanting to leave something meaningful rather than just pitch up, do a job, and leave. And as I said in my speech, it's not about making one big change. I'm not going to come in here and here's this one big thing I now want to revolutionize, because you're never going to get anything done by that. It's by bringing small little things, building on the stepping stones that are already laid down for you. So that's really why I felt financial management is the way to go.
Awesome, thank you very much. I have a question from the House here for you as well. In our constitution, it states that financial manager is responsible for drawing up a financial budget for the committee. What skills do you have to help you with this responsibility?
So budgeting and financial planning and everything has always been a really fun thing for me to do. So I felt I kind of naturally have the tendency to budget, to really work in an order financial way. Also, this is not my first time working in a financial position, meaning I'm really good with working within boundaries and making things happen. If, let's say, your current resources aren't able to give you that, there's always another way to make something happen. It's all about looking outside of the box and thinking in ways which, necessarily wouldn't come up front.
Thank you very much. That just about concludes your time as well, Caitlin. So thank you so much for joining us. It was lovely having you here. You are more than welcome to leave the call once you are done here.
100%. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Next, we have JC. So JC can come on. Hey JC, I'm just quickly gonna spotlight you so everyone can see your beautiful face. Okay, very welcome to your official caucus. I would like to start off with asking you, what skills do you think you possess which will make you the best person to work with all of the portfolios as a financial manager does?
Okay, so I'm a very organized person, and I write everything down. Like I have my book, all packed. Everything's organized. I'm a very organized person, so I think I'd be very good with organizing everything and making sure nothing gets mixed up. Like one, something that's just in one, part goes into another part. I'm very good at that, and I always double check everything. Like I'm very organized with things like that. So I think that would be a very good skill to have that I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone on the panel have a question for JC?
Hi, Jessie.
Hi.
So my question to you is, based on your weaknesses that you put down in your application, how do you think this will in any way affect your being in the position of financial manager in your team, and how are you going to ensure that these weaknesses don't hinder anything to do with the position?
Good question. So with my weaknesses, I worked on them, or I've been working on them throughout this year alone, a lot. I've gone through a lot this year, especially being back on campus for kind of the first time and being in a mentor position and being around a lot of people in leadership. I've learned a lot and I've grown. And I think that just being around like the HC and being around all the other people and just even newcomers, I'm learning to overcome my weaknesses, but also not just overcome them, use them as strengths as well. So I think, I don't know if that answered your question, or if it did.
So you've grown a lot. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's
especially
perfect.
this year, I think. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Jessie. Does anyone else have a question for Jessie? Otherwise, I have one for you as well. My question would be, what are you most looking forward to in the role, and with which portfolio would you most like to work?
The thing that I'm looking forward to most in this role is because it's something new and different. It's not really something that I've done before, like financial manager specifically. And it's a challenge, and it's something that I want to do. I want to challenge myself, and I want to take on this challenge, and I want to prove to myself that I can do this. I want to put in all my effort and just be the best that I can be in this role. That's one thing that I'm looking forward to. And I don't have a specific portfolio that I think, I don't know, I would be very okay with everything and anything, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do we have another question from the panel? Okay, I have a question from the house here. What do you think is your number one skill that you will be able to contribute to working in a team?
In a team. Okay. I think that I'm a very good listener. I think that's the thing. And I don't get frustrated easily, like at all. I'm the most patient person, I think, and I think that works well when you're working in a team, especially with a lot of people, because it can become very frustrating, especially if you're with people all the time, seeing them almost every day or even every day. Sometimes can be very frustrating and you can get claustrophobic. I'm a very patient person and I know how to deal with my frustration so that I don't take it out on other people as well. So I think that would be a good skill.
Thank you so much. That is, we have like a couple of seconds left, but I won't be able to ask you a question quick enough. So thank you so much for joining us. And you are more than welcome to leave the call once you are done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Let me just get you here in the spotlight as well. Welcome to your Finman Caucus.
Thank you.
Nothing new here. So my first question to you would be, how do you think you're going to balance using your experience to your advantage, but also excelling your growth as an HC?
Okay, so I think my first answer to that would to embrace flexibility, because my approach to many things is usually very structured and I have a set way of doing things and I don't like to deviate from my plan. But if there's definitely one thing that I've learned through last year, not only just with the portfolio, but with the curveballs that COVID has thrown at us, having to constantly adapt and change our plan, I feel like you need to embrace that in all aspects all the time, because anything can happen. And not being too hard on yourself when things have to change, because like Caitlin said in one of her answers, there's always a way to figure something out. You just need to take a moment, realize that this isn't the end just because your first plan didn't work out. So there's always room to adapt and change the plan. So could you just repeat the last part of what you asked? I think I might be deviating a bit from the question.
How are you going to ensure that you still excel your own growth even though you'd be in the same position?
Okay. So I don't think you can ever, just learn everything from 1 year of experience. I mean, like I said, things are constantly changing. There will be new obstacles. There will be new things to learn from. It's going to be an entirely different HC. So the whole dynamic is going to be changed as well. So there's definitely still going to be that to push me to grow. Also, this isn't the only thing that I'm doing. I mean, I'm aiming to do honors next year, so that's also a challenge, and balancing those things as well is something that's going to help me excel in my growth, because I feel like I only grow when I'm challenged. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Do I have a question from the panel?
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Joss.
So my question to you is, how are you going to improve on what you have already done? And what is your vision for the portfolio in the next term? How does it differ to what you have already done this year?
So I think that sort of ties in with the previous question, the thing that I said about flexibility. There needs to be more room for changes to can occur. I feel like from my experience, from what happened this year, is we had an idea of, okay, this needs to happen by this date, and we had a case this year with one of our events where something didn't happen the day before the event, and we had to just jump around and figure out a new plan. So I feel like something that I've learned to use to my benefit is the rest of my HC as well as other committee members. I'm not doing this alone. Like, you aren't the only one running things. So utilizing that and not being afraid to delegate and lean on other people for their input as well. Because my ideas aren't always going to be what works best. And especially if you're stressed about your plan not going as you thought it would, then you can't always think clearly and think of a better solution. And then, what did I want to say? I think one thing that I would change is the way, or what's the right word? The allocation of the funding to the different portfolios. The university is very likely to allocate funds to things like leadership development, or even having a house dance or an event like that, but not as much when it comes to courageous conversations or social impact. And I feel like the amount of funds that we can raise with things like selling merchandise, having an event, things like that, is usually more than we actually, have to spend. So a lot of that money can actually go to promoting and funding things like courageous conversations and social impact. So I'll try and lean my focus to funding those things as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more question. Do I have one from the panel? We have actually a house question here. You stated that you tend to sometimes get caught up in mistakes. How are you going to improve on that in the coming term?
I feel like I've already improved on, not completely, obviously, but I've definitely learned to embrace that a lot more during this year because, in all honesty, I made quite a few mistakes and I'm not going to lie about it because that's the only way you can learn. I think the main thing is knowing that you're not the only one making mistakes. It was completely new to me last year. So first of all, I can obviously use my experience to build on. But I think just changing, sort of moving towards the mentality of making a mistake doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you have something else to improve on. So I think the main thing just to be working towards that mentality. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That also concludes our time. So you are more than welcome to leave the call once you are done. And we will have the last candidate now. Sia, you are more than welcome to put your camera and your mic on. Sarah, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hello, Sia. I'm just going to spotlight you. Okay. So I have a first question for you, and then I'll move over to the panel. My first question to you actually has a bit to do with your journey as mentor.
Yes.
How do you think your journey as a mentor equipped you for financial manager?
My journey as a mentor has equipped me as a financial manager in a way that I grew so much towards my interpersonal skills, because now communicating with a large group has been something that has become a skill to me now. Like, I know how to talk to people. I know that there are different challenges that might arise, but that interpersonal skill that I have grew within me has taught me how to be a great leader. So I think that my journey being a mentor contributes towards me wanting to be a financial manager, because now I will be a financial manager, but I will also know how to communicate with the whole HC house. I will know how to communicate with the HC house because I have started from a small step of being a mentor and communicating with my mentees, and I've grew so much in communication. So communication is very important when you work with other team members towards achieving a certain goal. So that has helped me so much to want to be a financial manager.
Thank you so much, Sia. Do we have a question from the panel?
Hi, Sia.
Yes, Charles.
So my question to you is, what is your vision for the financial manager portfolio in the coming year? Besides the normal tasks and duties you're going to have to do, what other things are you going to incorporate to ensure it all runs smoothly?
Okay, my vision towards financial manager is to bring in the skills that I have learned whilst I was once in the business project called Yes. Because whilst I was in that business project, I've learned a lot of skills. I've learned how to deal with challenges that arises towards finances. And I feel like with all of those skills that I have learned, I want to bring that to Aristia. So my vision for Aristia is to learn something new, because there has been set ways to do stuff, but I won't completely change everything, but then I will bring in a little bit of skills that I have from the business project that I was once in.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Sia. I have a question for you, and the question is, how would you describe your work ethic?
How would I describe my work ethics? I think, okay, I have a strong feeling that I am a person who is hardworking. Whenever I have got an assignment or a goal or a challenge, whatever you name it, I am so ethical that I want to achieve each and every goal or challenge that I have. I never set goals for myself and never finish them. If I have set a weekly assignment for myself, I make sure that I complete that and I do it. I never leave anything unfinished. So my work ethic is very much of a person that is hardworking.
Thank you so much. I have a house question for you. Um, if you get financial manager, you will not only have this portfolio. So, what other portfolios do you think will you enjoy together with financial manager?
Okay, besides financial manager, I would also love to be part of the sports portfolio because I'm a person who's very active, full of energy. So dealing with other portfolios that has to do with physical work would also be one of the greatest portfolios that I would ever have. So being interactive, being out there, active, and growing physically as well is one of a portfolio that I would also want to manage because I'm a very adventurous person. I like to explore different types of fields of challenges. So having a sport portfolio would be a very much great portfolio for me.
Thank you so much. That also concludes our time. So, thank you so much for joining us, Sia. I hope you have a lovely evening further.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to the panel as well. That concludes our financial manager caucus.